The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, your host, and I want to introduce Kevin Avard. Oh, it's a long day. Who's from, you're going to be
District 12.
District 12, which includes wards 1, 2, and 5.
Correct.
In Nashua.
Yep.
And Doris Hohensee, who is running for a house at New Hampshire from Ward 3.
Thank you for running.
Thank you.
So we're going to have a very interesting campaign this year. Yeah. And Kevin, you have something to say on that.
Yeah, this is going to be your first year you haven't run.
Yeah, that's right. I've retired.
Yeah, that's...
Four terms are enough for me, but we have other very capable people running in Ward 1, and you're running, and Doris is running with experienced people.
Yep.
We have quite a lot of experienced people, and hopefully our people, the Republicans and the undeclared, recognize what is needed to turn around the state. This state has a real serious problem.
You know, it's funny. I was in Walmart yesterday, listening to the wind outside, and and I'm going through the line. I'm just getting some copy paper for my printer because I need it for the campaign. And the lady says, "Oh, so getting back to school?" I said, "No, it's for my campaign." And she says, "Oh, you're running for office?" I said, "Yeah, Senate." And she says, "Well, what are you?" I said, "Well, I'm a Republican." And she said, "Well, I'm very much an independent." And it's kind of funny how this went back and forth. I didn't know where this was going to go because I think a lot of people get into the independent because they're afraid to identify.
That's right.
They don't want to get attacked. And I said, "Well, you know, I'm a Republican, and you know, I'm just trying to, make sure that we protect your property rights, your school choice, and things of that nature." And she said, "So what are you running for?" I said, "Well, state senate." And it was kind of cute how it went back and forth. And she said, "Well, I just want you to get rid of that Nancy Pelosi." I'm just a little senator, and I thought that was really cute. But it's interesting how a lot of people are melding into that undeclared section because of all the vitriol that we're experiencing right now. And there's a lot of people that are pushing a hate agenda, and nobody wants to get involved with that. They don't want to identify with somebody because they're afraid of being ridiculed, shut down, or shut up. And you sense that everywhere. Mm-hmm. There's a barber down Main Street, and he's got a Trump sign in his front window, and he says, "The hatred that I'm getting from just small, from individuals that are walking by. It's not like we're throwing hate out.
Yeah,
it's coming this way." I walked out of my daughter's barbershop up in Concord, just getting a haircut and a beautiful beard trim, and some guy was passing out Trump signs. So I grabbed the Trump sign, and as I'm walking down the street of Concord to get to my car, the foul language that was coming out of some people, "Never met you before. You don't know what I'm all about. I'm just carrying a sign," and that intimidation. It's not coming from the right. It's coming from the left.
There were 2 polls on Facebook yesterday. One about the school, how it's opening. Do they like the plan? Well, 83% of them don't like the plan. Okay, so the overwhelming majority hate the plan. So then I asked the question: is how many want full time? I got 43% that said they wanted full time education. But the others, and there was more on the other side, it's 57%, but they were trashing. The people that wanted it kept their mouths shut.
Right.
They weren't allowed to open.
So
it's like
in the schools,
you're allowed to have one opinion.
You have the bullying policies, right? until you graduate.
Well,
Right? Then you
we've
get out
held
into the
it,
real
yeah.
world, then it's all, it's fair game. The left is really trying to pounce on
Definitely.
on the party. And
And the colleges are
they're part of
encouraging it.
Yeah.
But they want their way. It's like, it's not live and let live. Like, you do it your way, let them do it their way. No, you must do it our way.
Right.
That's the problem.
And
There's
if
no
you
breathing
don't,
room.
you're a Neanderthal, you're troglodyte, or some sort of thing. So anyway, we're getting back into the campaign. I'm running again, and we're seeing a lot of people that, like I said, that are gravitating towards the independent, but they're afraid to speak out. But their issues are education choice. They want the kids to go back to school, and if they don't, they want other opportunities for them. That's a huge issue with a lot of people. There's a state rep in Ward 2, Julie Smith. I put something out on there, and she constantly comes back with, Andy's against that boat tax or the canoe tax or something to that effect. They want to tax everything. If it walks, if it breathes, if it doesn't, if it's electrified, they want to tax it. And it's just, we're not here to be their servants. We're not here to be tapped.
I mean, there's infinite money that would they
Well, that's
see
what they
out
think.
there.
I was told it doesn't matter how long we shut down the state because the economy always bounces up. It did after the World Wars, so why wouldn't it now?
Well, the state of New Hampshire doesn't print money, does it?
No.
Well, no.
Right.
It doesn't borrow it that
But
way.
how do we go back to work if the parents are home doing remote learning or hybrid learning? Do you know the hybrid learning? I think you probably know. Elementary school is 2 half days a week. It's like 1 day. And then the high school is 1 half day a week. 1 half day.
We're having a generation, and yet we're paying full salaries, are we not?
Right.
We're not paying 10%. And
No, I mean
paying
for
100%
for
and
the
getting
teachers,
10%.
right? And for the administrators.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
none
this-
of them took a cut.
no,
Right.
none of them were furloughed.
And you see some of the companies where they're cut. They say, "Oh, the companies aren't being taxed enough." Well, they cut their salaries though, if they had to. They know how to survive.
So our kids are getting robbed.
Yeah.
They're getting robbed, and there doesn't seem to be an accountability at this point. So I'm definitely running. I want to make sure that we empower the parents so that they have school choice, that the property tax, that any way we can reduce them, we will. They tried to introduce an income tax. Thankfully, the governor did veto that. Red flag bills, which are gun bills, this is one of the safest states that are out there, and we have concealed carry. But it seems as though there's not enough revenue for their pockets. And we have two people that are running for governor, Valinsky and Feltes, and they're extremely generous with your money.
But we're $538 million in debt because of revenue shortfalls.
Right.
It's not like they can't even make up the hole that they've created from this shutdown.
Well, we're going to be running like 2010 because they had $1 billion budget outlined at that time that they couldn't fund.
Yeah.
And they said, look, our Constitution says we have a balanced budget. We have to do it. So Bill
We've got
O'Brien,
businesses that are going under. We can't tax them more.
Right. We have a great opportunity right now. I think now that when you're seeing the list of states around us that are closing, we need to open up. And we need to support these businesses because they are the backbone of our state.
That's where it all starts.
Right.
The businesses that are generating product and money and they sell it to people, more taxes come in that way. That's the start of the whole generation of funds.
COVID is working its way down. We have nobody, thankfully, in the ICU units across the state. They're empty. So, I mean, it's time to get back to work.
Right.
We don't need hundreds of pages of emergency orders or rules on how to run our businesses. We need to open.
Right.
And we need the schools to open. Because if parents can't put their kids in the schools, what are they going to do? I mean, you can't. I mean, and the elementary school, you got Monday and Tuesday, then Wednesday and Thursday the next week, and then Monday and Tuesday. So even if you get daycare, you have revolving daycare. It's not going to lower the contagion, they're going to be mixed up with more kids, not less.
It's going to be worse, yeah.
I don't understand.
So what state is fully open? Was that North Dakota or South Dakota?
South Dakota never shut.
Never shut down. And how are they doing?
They're doing fine.
Right.
Sweden never shut.
That's right.
And there's a lot
They're
of
doing
countries
fine.
that, had the schools
Other
going
countries
all
in
the
Europe
time.
are having spikes. They don't, because they have herd immunity. We have a lot of positives now that they're putting all over the news.
Mm-hmm.
But that's asymptomatic positives building our herd immunity. As soon as we get that in line, we'll be safer, so we can let the elders who are now really in quarantine.
I find it really interesting how political this hydroxychloroquine, it's supposed to be working, but
Yes.
now doctors are being chastised for saying that it works. It's been on the market for
They
50
pull the
years.
things off the Facebook. They just censor them. And our governor has limited access to them, like as if there was a shortage. When there was a ventilator shortage, we made more ventilators.
Right.
Now there's a drug shortage, produce more of the drug, but don't hold it back from the people.
Right, especially if they're
You
asking
need it
for
early on as a preventative, and then you can get over it very, very quickly. And most people recover.
So I think we have an opportunity before us. This looks like a tragedy right now, but I think if we get our act together here in this next legislation and start working with the local businesses, start opening up, work with them to get people back to work, then they can get back to school, and it starts that engine. It really bothered me at first when even with the churches, Carl, they weren't opening, but the
No.
liquor stores were. It didn't make sense.
When
but-
they had all those rules and regulations, you never get it right. It's the same thing when the administration sets up a lot of rules and restrictions
Yep.
and requirements. They can't cover everything.
No, I know
they should have a general way of expressing it with, as you say, principles.
Right.
Do this for the comfort with the people, or something or other. That's what you got to get in. Let people work their way that's appropriate for them to meet that goal.
Without picking the winners and losers,
That's right.
essential and non-essential. That's just totally demoralizing to be a taxpayer and told you're not essential.
Exactly. I think another thing that's a little bit of a concern right now is something that just happened within the last 24 hours. I guess Massachusetts is now going to be taxing people that are working for
Here in-
Massachusetts companies, but they're not.
They're located in New Hampshire
But they're
or some
located
other
in New
state.
Hampshire.
Well, yeah, because of the COVID, they're
Right.
here. Normally, they would put in a return and say, I want that refund for the days I did not work in your state.
Right. And now I think they're going
to try to preclude that from going back because they're broke too.
Right. And so, it seems like they're just putting more straws on this camel's back, and they're going to break the people. And after a while, the people, there's so much you can take. There's so much you can do. And we have an administration right now, at least the Senate and the House, they increased the budget, 13%? Something to that effect. And it's not enough. It's not. That's going to trickle down to the taxpayers. Somebody's going to have to pay that
Even
bill.
Nashua wants to raise our property taxes 9%. 9% in a year that we're getting 10% of our education?
Yeah.
Oh, what's interesting is during the height of this COVID, somebody came to my door wanting to assess the house.
Yes, yes.
Dude, you didn't even have a mask on. We're just going to walk around right now and just take a look at it, and then we're going to come back and do it again. I think, well, that sounds...
Yeah, a little
Wait,
silly,
efficient.
redundant, yeah.
But it's the wrong signal. It's not helping people. The government is there for the people, not the people for the government. And I think that always gets back.
Well, we had a problem
backwards.
in Nashua trying to get into our city hall that's closed. You have to make an appointment. Now, if nobody's there, you have a 15-minute appointment. You can't go for 30 minutes or 45. You have to come back on 6 different days.
Oh, I saw.
So I had a friend. She lined up 6 friends. They all went in for 15 minutes. I was a friend. I did my 15 minutes. And they tell you, 1 more minute. What is this? This is the people's city hall? Not anymore.
I was listening to a program the other day, and it's apparently the flu. More people have still died from the flu this year.
Yes, in previous years, the flu took more people than this year. This year, they're miscategorizing a lot of them, so we don't know.
It's become political.
It's monetary.
Yeah.
You get more money if you label it.
Right. So I think there's a lot of crazy that's going on. A lot of people are worried about their security. They're worried about the pandemic. They're worried about their businesses. They're worried about their jobs. They're worried about their education. They're worried about a whole host of other things. We got to stop this fear.
You don't want the stuff that's happening on the West Coast to come here.
And they're promoting that.
That's
The
right.
fear.
They're promoting that fear and that the vitriol and that bitterness.
Right.
Listen, I know this isn't a religious show, but when people say, I don't want to talk about social issues, I'm a social conservative or I'm a fiscal conservative,
Yeah.
if you create that vacuum, somebody's going to try to fill it. And that's exactly what's happening right now. There's organizations out there, they don't love God, but they want to put in a moral standard that everybody has to abide by because they look at the world as an unjust world. Well, their justice is based upon something, but it isn't biblical or it isn't Judeo or anything of that nature. But they want to institute that into our education system and basically brainwash a whole bunch of individuals in the younger grades.
That's what they're doing. Did you look at the schedule? It says reading, writing, and arithmetic. And then out of a very short schedule, they gave about 20% of it to social emotional learning and other things.
Yeah,
it's like, wait a second, if you've got 1 day a week, 2 half days to make 1 day, and you're going to go in, you're going to spend 20% of it or 40% of it on nonsense?
That's indoctrination.
Yes.
And that indoctrination
But we just put that in the past year or two.
I know that. But this indoctrination is something that is sidetracking from good education. And it's setting people against each other. And now, if you don't have a moral standard based on, say, the Bible or whatever your standard is, and you don't believe in God or whatever, you still have the 14th Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
The 14th Amendment says that, in summary, equal application under the law.
Mm-hmm.
We should strive to enforce the equal application under the law. But when you start making adjustments to that, you totally ruin the entire document.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, Planned Parenthood, you cannot protest on their sidewalk.
Yeah.
You have to be across, there has to be a buffer zone. Well, how would that work for Antifa or Antifa, or however you want to How does that work? Now, some people that were protesting in front of Planned Parenthood and writing chalk on the sidewalk, they recently were arrested.
They were arrested or into jail.
That's not equal application under the law. And so now you have a breakdown. And what does that breakdown do? Well, that causes more tension. And that causes one group to be over another group. And this isn't fair, this isn't fair. And it creates unrest. And that unrest turns into lawlessness. And that lawlessness turns into crime. And that's where we're building fear. So you have agitators out there that are hurting our society and trying to institute this into our educational system because, well, they feel as though they've been treated
We
unjust.
also have elected officials that don't abide by the law. I mean, there's a law that says you get 180 days of school, not once a week. There's a law that says that it's a parent's duty to bring the child to school full-time whenever it's in session. It doesn't say hybrid, part-time, whatever. These are laws that, the legislature's here. If the legislature wants to change them because of the pandemic, go to it, but they haven't.
And they have every authority to do that right now.
We're
by the way.
breaking the law and telling that 43% of our citizens, and it's probably higher because the poll was taken on a very partisan group. You're telling them that nobody's going to follow the law, and you can't go back to work. What if our elected officials don't uphold the law? Who is? Who's going
What
to?
did we do during the Spanish flu?
I wasn't here.
Sorry, Carl.
I know I'm a little older, but
During the World War II Blitz in England, they kept the schools open.
Right?
Because I spoke to a charming older lady, I'm old too, and she told me about how she went to school. She says, well, they didn't bomb in the daytime. They only did it at night. So those kids, after being bombed at night, went off on their own to school and came back.
Yeah, we're living in different times.
They had
well,
courage.
there's some history that goes behind that. I know there's a lot of during World War I, there was a lot of infighting between ethnic groups, But those ethnic groups are now all, combined. They have maybe their social activities that are somewhat ethnic, but they all combine. The black groups, the Latino groups, they're not trying to mix. They're allowed or even told that they have to express themselves.
That's agitation from
differently.
outside that I think are paying them to come in and agitate.
Yeah.
What we did, we shut down all of our cultural events, our theater, our arts, our sports. There are clubs that have been around for 20 years for athletes, athletic clubs. They've built up their business, and they're shutting down because of this. We're killing our current culture because of this shutdown. It is critical that we get back, because when we do, not all of those clubs will be able to come back, not all of those theaters, even the hospitals are laying people off. If we don't bring the state back soon, we're going to have a mess far
how are
bigger
we going
than...
to do that? How do we make people aware that they have the power to restrict some of these things that are happening that aren't going to be good for the state?
Well, number one, they have to get out and vote this year.
No more 10%
Yeah, but how do we get them out? Do we take them? I don't think we should make a fear that they have to go out and vote. They should vote because it's part of their obligation.
It is part of their obligation, and if they don't vote, I fear that this will be their last opportunity to have a equal opportunity in voting, because there'll be a gerrymandering, because there's what is called the
census and all that.
not the census, redistricting.
Yeah.
And it will be gerrymandered in such a way that
It'll be hard to get the
options.
We shouldn't even have mail-in votes. I mean, if you're sick, fine. We've always had that absentee ballots.
That's
but
it.
they're going to the grocery store. The grocery stores are full. Why is it that they can't once a year go to the polls? They go every week.
None of it's
to the
making
grocery-
that. None of that
it
makes sense. It doesn't make sense. But we do have to encourage people to get out
So
there.
we do have to
have to-
point out what the problems are, and that they have an obligation to bring somebody in that's going to fix it. The country is in terrible problems because they got lots of things. So many things that we could spend the rest of the day talking about them.
Right.
And how do we get them changed? How do we get law back in there? How do we get our Constitution being
Well, I think
followed?
once we get, hopefully we'll get a majority of Republicans back in, because a lot of them do believe in our Constitution. I do. And I think I'm looking optimistically at things. Yeah, it looks really bad right now, but I see the energy in people, and they want to work. They want to get back to work. I talk to business owners. What's going on? We just got to get back to work. Just let me get back to work.
Right.
Come on, but put me in. Let me, put me at the bat.
Get the restaurants eating in the buildings instead of in the streets.
The thing is you've got to have people that believe in the free spirit, in which New Hampshire's all about. Live free or die. It really means that. And we got to get them back into that same spirit, and elect people that believe in the people, not the government. It isn't the government that's going to fix this. They wreck everything that they touch, it seems. It's time that we get people back in, that puts back the control back into the people.
We need people to decentralize. No more top-down and follow the law.
Right.
Because if we did follow the laws, we would be happy. We would be fine.
Right.
But, I mean, even in education, it's like top-down. They push everything
Oh,
down.
yeah.
We've got to... Our districts are fine, but every school should be independent. Every principal should work with the local people and be independent.
We've been saying that for years, and I
do
agree.
it.
And the thing is, there was $45 million that was set aside to help open up the charter schools.
Yes.
We'll keep badgering on this until the cows come home. We had $45 million to help out with the charter schools. These charter schools are public. They're public schools, and they help kids that are in the inner cities that learn differently or want different options. This was an opportunity. And Melanie Levesque voted against that, to shut it down. And in other words, to shut down the opportunity for these poor kids.
See, I think we ought to get charters in all the public schools. If we had like 3 school board
But
members...
they are charter schools. Charter schools are public schools.
Every public... I agree.
That's what that money was for.
I
was
understand,
hoping.
but if every public school had its own little school board and they couldn't do the top down, so we would have innovation in every building, they'd have choice within the district. including the
And you could have a
So
raise
you'd
for the
have
teachers
more.
on top of that if you didn't have so many administrators.
But that's what they do other places. If you like your school, it's fine. If you don't, you can go to another school in the district. Get that choice going in the
Right.
district. It's nice that we have the charter schools. They are public. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying they're envious that you have choice and they don't. Give everybody choice. Make it choiceful.
Just like the
Let
advertisements.
them go back full time. Give them that choice.
How do you spell choiceful?
I don't know. I made it up. But the thing is, if they want to stay remote because they're afraid, that's fine. If they want to do full time, that's fine. If they want to composite, I mean, homeschoolers do that. Homeschoolers can go in just for a Latin course and stay home. We can work it out. But for them to say that there's only these two ways and everybody else, and we're going to shut down the schools, you won't have full time, it's so wrong. We paid the money. The state laws are on our side. So we just have to uphold the existing law and the existing Constitution, and we're fine.
You pay for what you need. That's what we ought to say. You know, we'll have to cut our
Liberty,
taxes.
liberty, liberty.
Free and appropriate education.
Only pay for what you need.
And after this election, we have one next year, which is for the local.
Right.
And that's
Should be
another
interesting.
time where we can put the squeeze on the people that are just spending money and not going to accomplish anything.
And I think just people, if I can just say, vote this year.
Yeah.
If you didn't vote last time, please vote this year, and get involved. I really think that if you really want your government to work for you, you've got to get involved, because it's the only way it works, is because it gets the power from the people. And if you, who was it, Plato, who said, if you don't engage in politics, then the inferior are going to rule you. And that's from Plato. You know, you can't get not involved in your local government and feel, if you're not going to get involved, you're going to suffer for it.
And you know, we welcome a lot of people to the Republican Party here in Nashua.
That's right.
We welcome the people that are independent. If they want to hear about how the campaign is run, come aboard. Get your experience a little bit. Do a little help for some of the people that are sacrificing their time and their money to run. I mean, New Hampshire is a state where you have local people who want to help the government. We don't do it for the money. It's $100 a year for the
Right.
Representatives. We don't get the money that they do with the federal government, but we do want to have your understanding and help to make it a better country to live in. And so it's everybody's responsibility to do that.
Got to unite. Fix it.
Get involved.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for both your time. And we'll have to do some more. But anytime they want to contact the Nashua GOP, go to the website, NashuaGOP.org.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.